I almost won the lottery once. For years, I'd play and never get anything. No numbers. Or 5 numbers out, 6 numbers out. Not even close. And then one week, I got 3. £10. £10 is nothing. But when you've spent years getting nothing, it feels like a whisper of something huge. And suddenly my brain went, this is it. Next time, you might get 4. Then 5 numbers. Then jackpot. I'm close. I can feel it. I wasn't close. The odds didn't change because I got those 3 numbers. But that tiny little taste of maybe kept me paying and playing each week. Because sometimes, oftentimes, almost is much more addictive than the real thing. It gives you just enough to stay. And relationships, and especially situationships, can be like that. The almost often hurts much more than the ending of something that was real, that actually gestated into an actual relationship. Because with a breakup from an actual relationship, at least you've got memories and clarity and a story that ran its course. You have chapters that you can close. But the almost, there's absolutely no closure. There's no story, no ending. Just a beginning that never quite arrived, and yet somehow still feels unfinished. It's not grief for a real relationship. It's the mourning of imagined potential, the future that you were 3/4 of the way through writing. In the situationship, in the almost, you always get the version of them that never has the chance to disappoint you properly, because they are the fantasy that never has to meet reality. And in many ways, that hurts a lot more, because there's nothing to argue with. There's nothing to point at and say, that's why we didn't work. There's no evidence, no mistakes, just silence and possibility. And you sit there, don't you, thinking, but it could have been something. It felt close. We nearly had it. It's exactly like holding a lottery ticket where those 3 numbers hit and your brain starts to get louder. Keep playing. You're close. When actually you're nowhere near. I've been there a few times. I used to hold on to people who would never fully choose me. People who gave me crumbs and then disappeared, and then came back with a late night message because they were horny or lonely or bored. And the message would always say just enough to give me the hope that I'd been trying to bury, to give me those 3 numbers. It is not the person that you can't let go of. It's the imagined life, it's the imagined potential, it's the imagined future that you built without them even knowing. You weren't in love with who they were. You were in love with a combination of who they might have been and who you might have had the opportunity to become if that potential had ever been real. That is the hook. That's the sting. That's the part that keeps you looping, because you never got to find out what would have happened. You never reached the point where it goes wrong. And so your brain makes up the ending. It builds the tracks in front of the train. And of course, your ending is always perfect, playful, committed, safe. Of course it's hard to let go. You are grieving possibility. And that's much heavier than you think. Now, here's where rich people come into this. Rich people who've worked for their money, that is. Talk to a rich person who's had to work for their money, and their advice will always be the same. Take action. Simple. Take action. They always say that. Just do the thing. Move. Try. Because they have learned that hoping alone doesn't change anything. Dreaming is lovely. I did it for years. But movement is what builds the bridge. And who plays the lottery more than anyone? Not the rich. It's people who've been taught that the only way out is luck, a miracle that you just wait for rather than build. You can miss out on big money by gambling on huge money. And perfect is the enemy of very, very good. You can miss out on a very, very good life because you're clinging to the fantasy of an imaginary perfect one. Hope is beautiful, but it isn't fuel. You still have to walk. And it's the same with the almost relationship. It feels so close to the thing that you want that you keep waiting, keep fantasizing, keep gambling. Just one more message, just one more sign, just one more chance. And suddenly, years have passed. You're still holding your ticket, still checking your numbers, still waiting. And everyone else is out there moving, trying, dating, building stuff, taking action. And you're staring at a tenner. You're staring at a soggy old tenner, as if it's a dream. I know it's hard, but if they had been able to choose you, they would have. If they wanted to, they would, is bullshit. There's an enormous amount of factors that come into people's decisions in relationships. Wounds, past trauma, attachment styles. So if they wanted to, they would, bullshit. But if it was meant to be, it would be. If they had been able to choose you, they'd have chosen you. If they'd wanted to sit with you, learn you, grow with you, you'd know. We need to move away from this idea that love is somehow mysterious. There is no mystery in real affection. It's obvious. Someone who wants you pulls up a chair. They don't leave you analysing texts like you're decoding hieroglyphics or ancient scripts or something. And they definitely don't treat you like a toy that only lights up when they're bored. Real love is that movement. It is that action. It arrives. It leans in. And it plays its cards face up on the table. It's like warm water poured on you. You don't have to brace yourself. You don't have to earn every drop. It just surrounds you. It took me years to realize it's not this icy, drip-fed, freezing thing that I was begging to turn into a river. And some of you, a lot of you watching this, are still holding on to someone who felt like an almost. And like I was, you're probably still really convinced that they were so unique and so special, meant for you, perfect. But if you could zoom out a few years, you'd see the truth. They weren't your great love. They were the doorway, the catalyst, the conduit. They woke you up with all this pain and inconsistency. They proved that you could feel deeply. They reminded you what longing feels like. That spark wasn't meant to last. It wasn't even meant to combust as far as it did. It was meant to introduce you to your capacity. They weren't the real one. They were the tutor who came before the real one. And if it never properly began, it can never properly end. So you have to decide to end it. That's also where action comes in. You delete the number. You block them. You stop checking the account. You stop rehearsing conversations and closure paragraphs that'll never happen. And you stop gambling the jackpot on someone who wasn't at the table, never bought a ticket. It's not punishment, it's direction. Because at some point you're going to have to say, well, I want something real. And I believe that real does exist, because you do deserve the person who actually leans in, who actually meets you. Find yourself someone who leans in when it's boring, when it's tedious, not just when it's exciting and thrilling. Someone whose presence feels like this warm water that I keep talking about. Someone who makes your nervous system sigh with relief. That's love. Love isn't the adrenaline, it's not the mystery, it's not the cliffhanger, and it's definitely not the almost. So if you're grieving something that never fully existed, I have been there, I get it, honestly. You're not losing your mind. It's a normal reaction to almost. But you can release the imagined future. You can thank it for what it taught you. And then you can walk. The world is much bigger than the fantasy that you lost. There are many people out there who aren't just potential that you've imagined, but present, real people. There is someone real, someone ready, someone who goes, oh, there you are, been waiting for you. Someone who love will bring towards you like the tide. Let go of your 3 numbers. Let someone love you with 6. Big hug.